Today we're going to go through the steps in order to replace the fuel pump on this 99 GMC full-size van. In order to gain access to the fuel pressure port, you'll have to remove the doghouse from inside the vehicle. With the fuel pressure gauge installed, we can now bleed the pressure on the system using our pressure relief valve on the gauge. Make sure and capture any fuel into a safe container. Before doing any repairs, it's always best to disconnect the negative battery cable. In order to do a proper fuel pump replacement, we need to clean the inside of the tank, and that will require the removal of the tank. Loosen the clamp on the filler hose. You'll actually remove the filler hose as you lower the tank. The carbon canister is actually bolted to the tank shield. We will remove the carbon canister in order to gain access to the emissions line. Disconnect the pressure line from the fuel filter. It is advisable to put a cap on the fuel filter to keep it from leaking fuel during the repair. Disconnect the straps and lower the tank slightly to gain access to the return line. Disconnect the return line. You may find a residual pressure at this point. Be sure and capture that in a safe container. Disconnect the electrical connection. Finish lowering the tank. We always want to clean the outside of the tank to keep any debris from getting into the tank as we remove the module assembly. Disconnect your electrical connections. Remove the fuel lines. Using a pair of snap ring pliers, remove the fuel pump retaining ring. Always inspect the locking ring, making sure it is suitable for reinstallation. We will be reusing the fuel line retainer clips. We will need to remove them from the old module assembly. Occasionally you'll get a pump that is stuck in the tank. You may have to use a screwdriver to slightly pry it out of the tank. Now remove the module from the tank. Keep in mind at the bottom of the module is a reservoir. This will contain fuel. Always be sure and capture this fuel into a safe container. At this point, we need to drain the remaining fuel into a safe container and then clean the inside of the tank. We want to be sure that the tank is as clean as possible to allow a clean environment for the fuel pump. We'll now remove the new Airtex fuel pump module from its packaging. With the new Airtex fuel pump module, you'll receive a tank seal, also a GM wiring connector that may be used on some applications. We will remove the float arm from the fuel pump module reservoir. Be sure and remove the red protective cap from the end of the float arm before installing it into the sender. Install the float arm into the sender assembly until you hear it click. Before installing the new Airtex fuel pump module into the tank, we'll need to install the tank seal up onto the module assembly. Be sure and note the locator tab on the module flange and the notch in the top of the tank. With the fuel pump module fully seated into the tank, we'll now install the locking ring. It's easier to start the locking ring and work your way around, making sure that the locking ring is placed under the retainer tabs on the tank. Now we'll install the fuel line retainer clips onto the new module and install our fuel lines. For this application, there may be two different fuel pumps available. One will have two electrical connectors like this one. You may have a unit that only has one. With the new Airtex fuel pump module installed, we're ready to put the tank back into place. Make sure and work the filler tube into the vent tube as we raise the tank. With the tank partially raised, reattach the fuel return line, reconnect the electrical connection, reattach the fuel pressure line, reinstall the carbon canister, making sure to reattach the emissions line. With the tank repositioned under the vehicle, reattach your tank straps. Now we will reconnect the fuel vent hose. With the repair finished, we will now reconnect the negative battery cable. We will want to cycle the key 2 to 3 times in order to recharge the system. We will start the vehicle and monitor fuel pressure, making sure it's within vehicle specifications. To remove the gauge, we'll shut the engine off and bleed the pressure from the system using the pressure relief on the gauge, making sure to capture any fuel in a safe container.